I'm Pete Townsend, and this is Money Never Sleeps. We look inside the minds of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. Joaquim Matinero Tor joins the show this week as we look at the likely paths to the adoption of CBDCs, or Central Bank Digital Currencies, in the different countries around the world making progress with these digital versions of fiat currencies. Joaquim Matinero Tor, or just Quim as he's known to friends, is a lawyer with expertise in blockchain, digital assets, and Web3, and a depth of experience in venture capital, mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, derivatives, and the securities market in general. Quim's a partner at a major law firm in Barcelona. He serves as a lecturer at several universities and business schools, and he's lent his expertise to CBDC projects for the European Union, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Singapore, the United Nations, and the World Bank. In this episode, Quim helps me to better understand the view of the general public toward CBDCs around the world. We also look at what's happening with CBDCs in Asia and how the country-by-country consumer trends with fintech and smartphones may influence CBDC adoption in different markets. All right here on Money Never Sleeps. So, Quim, you mentioned China and the situation going on there with the digital yuan. And I've always been a student of what has been going on with Chinese culture through fintech and through crypto. And do you think that the tendency of consumers in China to live their financial lives through their smartphone, do you think that will influence the adoption of CBDCs, even with the perceived oversight that the government may have over spending? Or do you see that there may be some other countries where CBDCs have made some significant progress, where you see user adoption moving faster there?
Well, in China, the Chinese government launched officially the digital yuan as 4th of February due to the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. And they informed that in the next 4 years, the physical yuan will disappear and everyone has to do the transactions in China using digital yuan, their own CBDC. There will be a forced use of that CBDC. Chinese citizens, they are really keen on fintech solutions. They are using different apps. So I think they will live in two different worlds. One, the official one that people would use CBDCs for the daily basis, and the other one to buy tickets to flying abroad China, to doing their own investments from the backward. On the other side, I've seen it that in Singapore, they're working really well with CBDCs. Project Hamilton, it's really impressive what they are doing. But people are reluctant at some point because there are at least this kind of theorem or that this kind of thesis that the privacy is lost using CBDC. In that the governments have to be really informed about the pros and cons of using CBDC to show that all the data are protected. Just that you cannot know if I'm buying every single Wednesday beer because I want to watch a Champions League game. The government does not need that information and try to avoid that this data will be used against you. So I'm sure that CBDC will have their own core and their own business, but it will not be used for everyone. Other parts of the world, in the States, they said that they stopped digital dollars because they don't think they're going to work in a short time. And also in Sweden, they work with e-krona, it's the e-money from the Swedish government. I think that the Swedish population are really related with fintech and with e-payments since the beginning of the 2000. So there will be a massive test and it will have a great adoption. Just the fact that just only 3% of the population use the Swedish currency in a physical way. So I'm sure that that will be a great test. But once again, in China, we will see a massive adoption, but it will not be because the citizens consider that the best opportunity. It's just because the government said that it erased totally the physical cash in 3-4 years.
There's two things floating through my head right now. It's the one side of it, which is, listen, the government has so much insight already. And that what CBDCs do not propose, even though I worked with a company on a project about this a few years ago, where they were actually getting merchants to sign up so that the exact items that you were buying were tracked and that this was decentralized and that data was stored elsewhere, and that the government would not have access to that if the government was the one that was sponsoring the issuance of the CBDC. It was offline so that you as a consumer could have a proof of purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was an added benefit and a way to increase consumer adoption. And also on the merchant side, obviously, there's some benefits of that as well. And so that is not proposed here. That is so hard to do. You have to connect so many dots in order to understand exactly what it is that you're buying. And even with the fintech apps, like Monzo, one of the main one used in the UK, Monzo the bank.
Yeah.
Like they Google in real time based upon the merchant to see what the category is for your spending. Okay, this stuff is really hard. And so can they see that, yes, I did go out and I spent €24 on this wonderful Irish India Pale Ale?
Yeah.
No, they can't. But they do know that I went to O'Brien's Wines to buy that. But like I said, N26 have that for me today. The other banks I use have that for me today. And I'm absolutely fine with that. So that's the one side. You know, the other side is the crypto element of this, is that crypto started on the basis of the default for humans is privacy. And that is what we fall back on, is that in general, we want things that happen in our lives to be private. And that is kind of a good bar to set. And that with crypto is pseudonymous. So it's once you can line up somebody's address to someone that shared that online through, say, a Twitter profile or even an email to a number of people, boom, you're no longer anonymous. And so there's this kind of, again, this juxtapositioning between how people view the pseudonymous nature of crypto and feel that it is privacy preserving, and then look at what governments can already get through fintech. And is there this happy medium in the middle that is a CBDC? I'm definitely spewing less toxins about CBDCs these days after these last few conversations I've been having with people.
Yeah, I think so. People are always afraid of new comings and CBDCs. It's government, central banks, and they're worried about they know everything from you. Okay, they already know that because you got a cell phone. As you said, you have already been tracked. They don't know if you're drinking a Guinness or you're drinking a Jameson whiskey, but you're drinking a kind of a spirit. So more or less, they thought that this data will go to the insurance companies, to the healthcare, and they said, oh, I know that you're buying 2 packs or 2 boxes of cigarettes a day, so you are not allowed to have this new treatment. I think that people are afraid about what this kind of data will be used in what kind. So it's no, crypto is the best solution. Okay, crypto in 2008 has a meaning, going against capitalism, creating a new system, going to peer-to-peer, that the value of Bitcoin will be around $1. And nowadays, Bitcoin has become a new digital gold. And people that are using that, they are not anti-capitalist. They are more for capitalism than ever. So I think that it's important to data to have control, but understand that, okay, at least in Europe, the CBDC will be limited at least for 3,000 euros. So it will not be a massive adoption. You will use it for a small payments and so on. So you cannot have all your income or all your financial position in just one currency. So just keep working on that. I think that we have to understand that it's progress on new economy, and also it's trackable for them too. So for me, it's really important if they give me some kind of aid or some kind of extra money, that everything is tracked and they are not losing part of this aid in other administrations that we know that sometimes politicians and other middlemen, they take part of the state of any kind of aids to a certain party. So I could track that an aid that's sent it, for example, in the north of France, because it has been a natural disaster, floods or whatever, you know, the European government sent 100,000 million euros to there. They receive 100,000 million euros, and they receive every one of each. They receive this amount. I would say 10,000 euros each family. You have to use this amount just to rebuild your house, buy food, buy water, but not spending in a gambling machine, not spending that going out or just buying a plane ticket to Bahamas. So I think it's good to think this kind of measure if it has been a little bit structured. So we're going to have in the future our currency. We got e-money from the fintech solution. We got cryptocurrency for people that want to use it. And also we got CDBC. So there will be several options that will be all connected one to another. And it will give the citizen what they are willing to. There's a new alternative.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. E-money, which is electronic representation of fiat that a e-money institution owes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a number of payment providers out there that are e-money institutions, and even some like Revolut is still an e-money institution in the UK, and they're operating in Ireland, for example, under a banking license out of Lithuania, or European banking license. So that is probably closest to what people know today. And then you've got crypto, right, which is its own thing. And then you've got CBDCs, which to me have always been in the mindset of replacing paper currency.
I think they will, in the future, I'm sure they will try, because my grandparents, they're still using cash. And my parents are just paying with card. My sister is paying everything with her smartwatch or with her phone. So I think in 20 years from now on, people will use our digital device. I think that paying cash would be something I would say it's retro, it will be vintage. And people will use it away, I'm paying in a different way. But this kind, if you go to a store, most of the time you say just pay by card. They don't accept cash anymore. Or big stores say, no, if you pay with cash, you have to go to the third floor because we don't accept card payments downstairs. So I think that things are moving. We're always walking with our cell phone or with our smartwatch, and we love to pay instantly. So things in 20, 30 years' time, I'm sure that CBDC will decide, okay, people are not using cash or physical cash anymore. Okay, CBDC will be 50% of the money issuance for the European Central Bank, and 50% will be in cash. I think we'll have to find and bring and give everyone a solution to that. So every European citizen must have a cell phone at least, and will have to be at least not free, but at least giving a certain discount to certain people that could not afford to buy a cell phone. So that's a problematical to have the rights and liberties, also with the obligation that will need them.
Yeah, and I mean, or you could go all Ready Player One, which was in that story in the year 2045, that because that version and vision of the metaverse was so just completely base layer for society, that if you're a kid who wanted to go to school and you couldn't afford the headset, that one would be issued to you by the government, right? Or by the school, by some private institution running the school. And so we will get to this point where if your entire commercial financial life is controlled by the ability of you to have a smartphone and to have internet access, that this will just become public utilities at some stage.
Yeah.
I think it's, or they definitely subsidized at the very least.
I do think so. Nowadays, if you don't have a fast internet connection, you are out of the market. And I remember that 20 years ago, when I was in school, I loved to play video games. I loved to play Age of Empires and other kind. But in Spain, we have a really slow connection. And we could not play against people in South Korea or in the States because our connection was limited. So the things happen right now. If you don't have a cell phone and a high-speed connection, whatever, you cannot afford to buy, to work for, to a merchant company, to online gaming company, because you don't have the minimum tool to that. So there's a barrier that we have to at least remove before implementing a digital cash to everyone. We have to have at least middle terms and to find a proper solution that everyone is safe. And if they want to pay in cash, they can do so. So I think in the next 20, 30 years, we'll see more and more digitally, but it will still need cash. So people people say, okay, everything will go run in cryptos. And so, okay, if you want to run in cryptos, people must understand how to use a wallet, at least a MetaMask. And that's a problem because it's not easy the first step. So people are not using crypto because it's not easy to do so. Once you pay with your phone, no matter if you're paying crypto, you're paying cash, or you're paying with e-money, things will start changing. But when there's a barrier, it's really difficult to remove it. And people just to be confident, Remember, before the pandemic, people paying, I'm not saying with your phone, they were always saying, oh, they're going to steal your money. Be aware of where you're paying with your phone because they will keep your credit card. Well, was a lot of rumors about that. After the pandemic, everyone is paying off online, and there's no problem at all. And that's funny because it has just 4 years from now on. It was the 17th of March, and nowadays we are in the middle of March, and it happened that way. In 4 years, people that were against paying online, everyone has their own phone, 3-4 cards, they paid, and nothing happens because people accept it. And they tried, and there's no barriers, and it's sure and safety.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And, like you mentioned, just on the unbanked today, there's 1.6 billion unbanked. That doesn't mean they're necessarily using cash. That just means they don't have a bank account. They could have a mobile money wallet. They could have a crypto wallet, and they're living in a emerging market country and where the US dollar actually is more useful to them than the local currency, and they're actually using stablecoins. They're using USDC or they're using Tether. And that this is something that is far more widespread outside of the United States, where the bulk of some of this thought comes out of, why do we need stablecoins? We got the US dollar. What the hell do we need that for in the United States? You don't, right? Unless you want to live on the edge. But in other places around the world, it gives you access. It gives you the ability to save in a currency that is not yet on the path to devaluation. I think if this continues with this printing of money over the long term, that I think we'll eventually end up at a place where the US dollar is no longer the world's strongest currency. So, but again, hopefully it's a ways off. But I think there's that element of stable coins when people look at and they say, to me, that is, at least these days, the killer app for crypto. Is that it's something that people understand. And I think it's just kind of to me, it feels like it's in a bit of a holding pattern that stablecoins are before CBDCs become fully entrenched. But there is a big difference between a stablecoin and the issuer of that, which is a lot more akin to an e-money institution than there would be a central bank that is issuing a digital currency, right?
Yeah, and well, that's what's going on with the next regulation in Europe. At the beginning of 2025, we got MiCA regulation. It's marketing crypto assets. And every stablecoin provider, they have to work with several regulations. We've seen it yesterday. There were several stablecoins that are jumping out of Europe because they're not going to comply with this regulation. But also, you said due to the stablecoins and certain emerging market, I remember 2 years ago where this GameFi experience appeared and everyone was playing with kind of Angry Birds. People in Philippines decided to, give up their jobs to start playing because they earn more money playing in a DeFi gaming than working properly in Philippines, and they are earning in dollars. So it was quite shocking to say, no, I prefer to be whole day working or playing with these characters, and I gained $20, $25, $30 than in just 3 days. I earn more money than the whole month here in Philippines and earn it in dollars. So it was a change of the country. I said, wow, how can things can happen that people that got a laptop and a cell phone and a good internet connection, they decide to give up their job to start playing online. And that's things happen to Africa. Africa, the banking situation is an unbanked situation, but people have always been paying with the cell phone. Remember 10 years ago that they pay their electricity bill and the water providing by an SMS. And nowadays they are using cryptos, and some governments like Nigeria try to ban Bitcoins and so on, because but the population decide what they want to. They don't want to use the local currency. They prefer to have a stable coin in dollars because at least it's more stable. So you cannot fight against what people want. And that's what's going to be the future. If some provider or fintech provider give us a new solution, a great solution, traditional banks will lose part of the stake. So we have to think about it that maybe Monzo, I would say number 26 or Revolut will have a bigger piece of cake. Just the fact because they give to the new generation, new solution, and people prefer that they're going to Santander or going to Deutsche Bank or going to the traditional bank because they have nothing that related to them.
Yeah. And I think looking ahead, I mean, Quim, you'll know the difference between the issuers and what the legal
Yeah.
ramifications are around them. I'll probably know some of that as well, but to 95% of consumers out there, they won't know and they won't care,
Yeah.
right? It's
Well,
just, is my money secure and do I have access to use it?
yeah, but that's happen in every single business, I'd say. If you want to buy a car, you buy a car because you like it and you think that then you talk with an expert to the car, say, you don't have to pay this amount with this car because it doesn't worth that. But you have to at least have an advisor or people that you really believe on them and ask the truth. Why I will have all my money in this fintech provider or having in a traditional bank? You have to think about it. What's going to happen in the worst case scenario? To who I'm going to claim or who are going to preserve my interest? I think that, as you said in English, not having all the eggs in the same basket. So you have to understand that diversification is the future. There's no one that's going to win the whole game. So it's like a risk playing. You have to put all your strategies in different points and try to walk in a balanced position.
Absolutely. And we've talked a little bit already about some of the things that central banks should be doing in order to get the groundwork in place for user adoption. But are you seeing any best practices right now in terms of across the different countries around who's doing it the best?
I think that Singapore is doing a great job because they are trying to list different projects related to CBDCs, one to the wholesale. I think it will be great between banks because banking transactions every day, it's billions and billions and billions. So it will be a saving cost transaction. And the other one is trying to understand if they needed blockchain technology in certain points in certain projects, and in which cases it's not necessary because it's going to be used by the central government. Also, another project that I'm really interested in that is cross-change project, because of course you're using the Singaporean CBDC, and if you're moving to Australia, you will need the Australian CBDC one day once you're going to be using. So we need to find solutions that if we need to connect the American CBDC with the Singaporean CBDC, they will be at least connected in a certain price, a certain value. So I think we have to think a little bit one step forwards, and Singapore is doing great in that sense. The other one in Saudi Arabia, they are thinking about the CBDC due to the Vision 2013. They're going to change the whole country. It's based in the Sharia, so it's based in the Muslim law. But I think that every single country will have their own CBDC because the population asks for that. But the other way around is how we're going to connect all these, let's say, 147 different CBDCs, and it will be a centralized market that you're going to swap one to another, or we'll have one big, as you pointed out, dollar in the 1950 world, the main currency in the world, and nowadays are moving to another one. So there are certain issues that needs to be solved. Also, the privacy terms, it was one of the biggest one. They are working on that really, really hard because they know if they jump on the market and people do not accept, it's a big problem because you already use it. So you have to work before that, think about it. And once you're making the issuance, that people accept it and start using that.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm thinking of what Jeff Bezos put in place in Amazon all those years back, that if you want to propose a new product, you've got to come to the product meeting and you need to have the press release written for when that product actually goes live. Okay. And to be able to express to the world what the benefits of this product are and why it's actually something that people should care about. And I think it's almost that these central banks need to be thinking about from that perspective, is to say, how do we write the press release for not only when this thing is launched, but when it's actually hit mass user adoption. And that's a really interesting point about cross-chain, because I get really excited about that, about thinking about how will the US dollar live on chain. And that where there was a really interesting tweet that was going around last week, and I'll put it in the show notes, that was suggesting that, listen, here's an asset that has 27 trillion in supply and 25% of it was created in the last 6 months. And it looked like it was talking about some meme coin, but it was actually the US dollar. US has a long way to go with this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of political meanderings at play here. So
yeah. US dollar has a lot to do. I remember I think 8-10 months ago that they just passed a regulation that said that the United States of America never gonna be bankrupt. So you're gonna against the law, but people just signing up. That's true. no matter what,
Yep.
the digital dollar will survive. And unless the value is minus zero, but it's still going on. So they're still printing dollars. Yeah, hyperinflation. But that's the way the economy goes. And we don't stop that game. That would be the way. And people say, but I got dollars. Yeah, but your dollars, nowadays, they're worth 40% less than 6 years ago. So you have to start investing in one way or another. It depends on your capacity. But money has not the same value that it has 10 years ago.
Totally. In thinking about all of this together, right, that there's a question that I'm starting to ask today, the podcast. I'd heard it asked on another podcast, which was Web3 Breakdowns. And I then was listening to another podcast where the actual creator of this idea, his name is Des Traynor. He's one of the co-founders of Intercom, that little widget at the bottom of your screen where you ask for help from the SaaS platform that you're working on or whatever. And that Des explained it quite well as 666, right? 6 months vision, 6 months strategy, 6 weeks tactics. And he kind of, when the guy from Web3 Breakdowns was asking this question, he kind of turned around and he said, what are you most hopeful for in this space over the next 6 years, over the next 6 months, over the next 6 weeks? Any insights on that?
Yeah, in the 6 weeks, I think there will be a massive adoption on ETF because I think then 6 weeks also the Ether ETF will be in the market because the resolution from the SEC, it's around mid-April, end of April. So if Ethereum's ETF also are on the market, it will be a biggest bubble. I'm not saying that this bubble is going to burst sooner or later, but people will start investing in this new kind of product for sure. In 6 months, right now, we're going to have the MiCA implementation, which say the market in cryptocurrencies in Europe is fully applied. So the services providers, exchanges, custodians, and other crypto players will have to adapt this regulation or limit their operation outside Europe. So Europe is a big market, and also the American market should start thinking, what's the reaction to that? Copy the same regulation, created their own regulation to the services providers. And 6 years from now, I think that we're going to live in a fintech world, not a crypto world. People will use lots of fintech applications. I'm sure that what we've been talking 2-3 years ago, there was the metaverse will be a reality. Just because we got the devices. The Apple Vision Pro, I tried, they are amazing, but they are really, really heavy. So I think that we have to update that point. But once most of people could have access to these new devices, we create new platforms. We start looking about new kind of jobs that you can work from whatever you want, but you will be connected. You will need a cryptocurrency and tokens to be used in that world because it's impossible to use it fiat because they are centralized. And the other way, we're going to have these CBDCs also in the market. So it's going to be funny around 2030 that how the world has changed. I hope there will not be another pandemic because it was quite frustrating to being at home. But countries will change, people will change. And also, I'm not sure if there will be a Web3 major Copernican term, but companies will start thinking that, okay, data, it's really important. But we should give back to them part of this because we earn a lot of money and we need to create new solutions. People, well, my new colleagues in the office and also trainee, they said to me, Kim, I need my phone always by my side. I say, why? You have to do your paperwork. You said, write a document. Yeah, but my life is 50% digital, 50% physical. So that people that nowadays are really mid-20s, in 5-6 years will be around 30s. They control part of the population about the economic position. So we need new solutions to them. And this new digital world will have new digital implications, not only from the economy, also from the healthy or the mental issues. We should work in different kind of sectors, but because it will be a new world, a new upgrade. So we need to understand that things will come slow. I'm a really football fan. I love FC Barcelona. I'm not sure they're going to win the Champions League because we don't have Messi anymore. But new generation, more than 10 minutes watching a football game, they're getting bored. So we need to change the way they consume not only sports, but all the leisure activities.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Banks need to create new products, new solutions for this new generation. We need to understand that what was good 20 years ago is not good anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So fintechs are now part in the game. They are not small companies that try to make just noise. No, they are part of the financial structure. And also the central banks need to create new alternatives, at least to be crystal clear about the age, about the money, how money we are printing, in which way. So it's important how we are just creating this world, and also pointing that artificial intelligence and other kind of technology are jumping also. So we're going to change a lot in 6 years' time.
I think we will. Imagine what's happened in the last 24 years since the turn of the millennium in terms of technology.
Yeah.
And between 1980 and 2000, there was nowhere near as much as what's happened. So we're moving in dog years now. And that 6 years from now, I think it will just be, well, it's close enough to a dog year, 7 years versus 6 years.
Yeah.
But
every single year it changed a lot. And things moving really fast, not only in business, but also in our daily life. People are moving from one country to another. They're changing works, they're changing everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating. I think it's going to be fun. But I just remember at the beginning of 2000 that you got your CDs starting to start hearing about MP3. Nowadays, nobody got a CD player. Nobody got an MP3. And you try to explain to a millennium guy that's now the 22, 23 that you bought an MP3 and they're just looking at you, what you were doing.
Yeah.
I got a cell phone. I got the whole music that I want in my phone. I just Google it and I got it. And you explain to them, no, I was using Napster and then I was using emails to get my pirate music and so on. So it's funny how things has evolved in just 24 years.
Totally. And where I round things out with everybody, Quim, is this last question that I ask everybody, which is one thing that people wouldn't expect to know about you.
Well, I was martial art professional. I was a karate, from 33 years. I am black belt since I'm 14. So that's the thing that people don't know about me.
Wow.
But as you must know, at that time, mixed martial art, they were not a big sport. So I didn't dedicate it to that. I studied law and business. But that's what people doesn't know about me. The only thing that I don't know in my life is just fighting. And then just, of course, doing as a lawyer is something that I learned year by year.
Amazing. Very serendipitous as well, because last week, with the first week of the Techstars Web3 class of 2024, I said Mr. Miyagi about 5 times. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with you. My team will be doing a lot of stuff with you that will seem like wax on, wax off, paint the fence, sand the floor.
Yeah.
You know, in that it's actually about repetition and it's about practice and training and getting things right. And you may seem frustrated that we're going to do it over and over and over again, but we're following this 10,000 hour method.
Yeah.
We're following this, what is it? Bruce Lee said something like, I'm more afraid of the person who's done one kick 1,000 times than someone who can do 1,000 different kicks.
Yeah. And also I just say, when you are totally exhausted physically and mentally, the only thing that works is something that you do it by repetition. Mm-hmm. So when you are exhausted, if you try so hard in concentration, in doing whatever you want to, your body will do it automatically. That's totally what they say. Why good soldiers, no matter if they are 70s or 80s, they can do amazing things because they did it the whole life, and they're all this body and muscle. They know how to react in certain situations. You don't know why, but you just react. If you have been working under pressure for years and years, no matter if you are 10 years from now that you're not working investment banking, if you have been worked or forced in an intense situation, you know how to work that because you knew it and you do it by repetition and your body knows that. So it's impressive when you do it. As Presley said, no, I'm afraid of a man who kick one kick 1,000 times than the one that can kick 1,000 kicks. And that's true. If you do it something and you do it consciously and do it one by one, and you do it great, I'm really afraid of that because nobody will master it. You are the master.
Totally. Yeah. Words of wisdom. Thank you, Quim. This has been an amazing chat. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, just contact me on LinkedIn because I just try to post every single day a post related to cryptos, blockchain, and so on. So you also find the last part of the post, the song that I heard when I finished my training by day. So some days they are rock, some days they are electronic music. So just a little bit of fun. But please contact me on LinkedIn and I'm going to write back to you. And if it's necessary, I will send my email and just keep moving forward. So please free that everyone needs my help or think that I could help them in one way or another, really pleased to do so.
So listen, thank you so much, Quim. This was a fantastic chat. Really looking forward to meeting you in person at some stage and hopefully not being kicked by you, but definitely receiving more wisdom from you through the whites of the eyes. So thank you and very much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Pete. It's been a pleasure to be with you and hope to come back as soon as possible and see you in Dublin in one way or another.
Absolutely. Always welcome here. Thanks, Quim. That does it for this week, folks. You can learn more about the topics we covered in the show notes on our website, moneyneversleeps.ie. Thanks to Joaquim Matinero Tor for the awesome insights he shared in co-hosting this episode with me. We'll do a deeper dive into the output of this conversation in our Money Never Sleeps newsletter on Substack. So check that out on moneyneversleeps.substack.com and subscribe. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify as it helps others to find the show. Also, thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for mixing and editing this episode. Conan is an excellent media man to get in touch with when you're thinking about launching your own podcast. As for me, I'm an early-stage startup investor focused on where fintech meets crypto and crypto meets Web3, and I lead the Techstars Web3 Accelerator. There are plenty of links in the show notes on moneyneversleeps.ie on how to get in touch, so don't hesitate to reach out. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!
Money never sleeps, pal.